So yesterday I did the offensive interviews. The Miami Dolphins brought in to kind of go over them loosely and kind of see what is it saying about the Dolphins' vision for the 2023 draft. So today I'm going to do the defensive players, go over them and kind of lay out what it looks like or possibilities or visions that they have. And I'm also going to hit on two comments because it kind of ties together about value. I'm going to go with this comment here from Marcus Miranda. Hey, Curtis, Sims had them like this, the tight ends. Kincaid, Laporta, Mayer, Wiley, Washington. Tucker Kraft was an honorable mention, maybe 9, but the guy who was with him chatting had him at 5. Sims did say he thought Washington might move up a little bit in his ranking. He loved Laporta, but it does seem there's a lot of good tight ends, good year to draft one. So I'm going to break down a couple of parts because it's going to tie into what I said yesterday and what I'm going to say today. Now, value is subjective. It's totally subjective. It's like beauty. You know, one guy or girl thinks this person's beautiful, and one thinks that's ugly, and this is beautiful. And listen, Barry Sanders is beautiful no matter what you do. Peyton's beautiful. But we're talking about the regular guys all the way up into the good players. Now, great is great. And, maybe even in some schemes, a great player might not be as great. But for me, I like Washington number 1 for Miami. And it's not because, he might be the best player. But my beauty is not seeing Tua get, knocked around, beat up, having a run game, and being able to attack different areas of the field that we aren't able to without him. Now, you bring a guy who's 6'7", 270, and he's an extra lineman. And that helps when you got, Eichenberg, or some commenters been calling him Hindenburg, and Jackson, and then even my man Theron, who's awesome, who might miss a couple of games. And then you got some problems on depth underneath. Now, he brings excellent ability in the red zone because of his size. He brings excellent ability in the peel-off, in the play action. He brings legitimate blocking in the run game to alleviate some of the weaknesses that we do have or could have during, in case of injuries or if certain guys don't step up. And he's also fast. So for me, above all these guys, not because he's the best, but for what we need, I have Washington high. Now, I like Kraft too, but not in our second-round pick. I like him because he can block, because we need help blocking. Tanakana can't do it. Smythe struggled last year in the run game. The year before, he was good in the pass game, blocking. Sauerbert, great German name. I don't even know if it's German, but sounds like Sauerbraten or Sauerkraut. He was bad last year, but good the year before in both run and pass. So there's a lot of concern. And then the issues on the offensive line. I don't think we're getting an offensive lineman with our top picks this year. I just don't think the talent's there. I think we might be reaching. So for me, Washington is the highest level. Now, Laporta, he might, if he can learn how to pass block, he might be the best guy. But learning to pass block, as we've noticed with Gesicki, is not always a given. A lot of tight ends are good, but they really can't block. This guy can really block. He's not getting shorter. He's fast, and he can catch high-point balls. To me, I like this guy a ton. I also don't like that the Bills are targeting him with their interviews, and so that bothers me a little bit too. So that's how I would have the value based on what we need. Tua needs to stay healthy. We need to run the football. Now, to continue with this a little bit, then I'll get into the coverage of the defensive players in the interviews. Lucas, he said, where would we be if we had drafted Goddard instead of Gesicki? I remember Goddard being expected to be drafted before Gesicki. We took him 7 spots before the Eagles took Goddard. That never made sense to me. Also recall Goddard being a contributor his first year, whereas it took Fitzpatrick time to help Gesicki grow his confidence and ability to make plays. I'm glad we've drafted, we've had Gesicki, but I think it's just another mistake in our recent draft history. Any thoughts on this? Well, I got a big mouth, so if you say something, I probably got thoughts on it. Whether they're good or not, we'll find out. Now, if you see right here, I get the little image. You see Dallas Goedert and Mike Gesicki. And if you notice, 2018, they were kind of relatively close. The difference was the touchdowns. He had 4, but they were relatively close, and it takes time for tight ends to grow. Then 2019, it was the O'Shea year. They got rid of Crazy Gase. I mean, that's hard to succeed with Crazy Gase, So you got to give a little rabbit ears on year 1 for Gesicki. So then year 2, he got O'Shea, and he had a sizable growth. It pretty much matched Goedert. Of course, the run blocking didn't. Not that Goedert's genius run blocker, but he's better than Gesicki. And then 2020, when they brought Gailey in, and again with Fitzpatrick, the chemistry was there. He had his best year, 13.3 yards per catch, which was better than Goedert. He had a little bit more touchdowns, twice the amount. So he superseded Goedert year 3. And now, remember, he had Tua for the half that season. It's not a knock on Tua because you have to understand, in Gailey's system, simple things like Fitzpatrick seeing the hand technique of a lineman meant he's calling an audible and getting that ball off. And it's not a knock on Tua. Fitzpatrick in 2020 was better than Brett Favre for the first couple of years, Steve Young for the first couple of years. Brains makes a big, big deal. And so that ability to be a mid to late clock delivery of the football to Gesicki and to be able to orchestrate things the way he did was critical. Now, 2021, when he had all Tua, he still didn't have a bad season, 780, only 2 TDs. But remember, we had the 45th best offensive line in football, which made Philandia look jealous. And Tua really, he was hurt a couple times a year. We didn't really have a run game. It was a disaster, the 3 OCs. You had the fighting going on with Greer and Flores and Ross, whoever you want to make the bad guy out to be, whatever. It's dysfunctional. And so then he comes back this year and he has a disaster year. He didn't suddenly suck. McDaniel just didn't have a way to get him open, to really work him. If you hear him banging, that's my pit bull. He's like a baby. He's got to be in my pocket all day, and sometimes I can't distract him long enough. So if you hear him banging, that's my guy Judah underneath the table. Beautiful guy, but forgive the banging. Anyway, so they just couldn't figure out how to get him. And part of that problem was the lack of time that Tua had. We went deep, but a lot of that was because Waddle and Hill were able to orchestrate with speed to get themselves open quick because the pressure was coming. We didn't have legitimate play action, and Gesicki just didn't fit in this system. He is a good player. But again, the vision, the value, it was different. McDaniel didn't say, if he had a good offensive line, he would have been able to get Gesicki open. He would have been able to make plays with Gesicki, but the offensive line constricted it. And so value is in the eye of the beholder. We needed something more. We couldn't pay that. We brought in Hunt along. Some people say it was Flores' idea. Some people say it was Greer's idea. It doesn't matter. It was the team's idea. They were working together. And I don't think that was a wise idea with a third-round pick when you had Gesicki. And so, really, when I go into this next part here, I'm basing it on my value system. It's different probably than many of these draft nicks. It's different than probably Chris Greer and Mike McDaniel. It's probably different than you guys. But I'm trying to present why I view these guys as valuable. And Kraft, he brings such a bonus to us. I don't want him in a second. I want him in a third. I'm still up in the air on that second. I'm praying Washington drops somehow. We can get him. We need a utility blocker. He doesn't have to be the greatest receiver because you've got Waddle and Hill that create such game-changing leverage. They put everybody on their heels. They create so much space. You just need a guy who's pretty good, and he's going to get open. But he'll get a lot more open if he can block, create a run game, and peel off in those play actions. So now I'm going to get into the the draft portion, going over the list of the players, and kind of showing you what I think is the direction we should and might be heading. But first, I want to say thanks for stopping by. I appreciate everything you guys do. You're the best. I want to give you a shout out for the likes, the subscribes, the comments. You guys make this channel go. I appreciate you greatly. So I want to give you a shout out. Shout out to Ace Bread, my sponsor, because without the two of you, this show ain't going down. Ace Per Head's betting software is the premier white label platform for bookies to manage their players and grow their sportsbook operation. Click the link in the description below to get set up in minutes. Ask for the Curtis promo and get a special introductory discount. All right, so we got the list. Yesterday I did the offensive guys. The green is the cornerbacks, the defensive backs. The red is the DTs, interior linemen. And then the blue is the linebacker edge kind of guys. So I'll get to that in a second. Now, first, the stars, those are the guys that we're actually going to spend picks on in that second and third round. I'm not going to waste my time covering the other guys. Alex Austin, Carl Brooks, and Marquise Waters, and Garrett Nelson. You know, they might get picked second and third. I don't know. I don't know what. But from the general consensus of the draftniks, these guys aren't going in the second or third. So I'm just going to kind of move off those guys and deal with the guys that are pertinent and relevant and most likely. So Julius Brents. Now, I like Brents. I think he's a pretty good player. They have him possibly going, I think they have him in the second round, 6'4", 202. Lacks a little bit on the speed. Change of direction's a little bit low, but when you're that tall, it's hard to change speed. Now, his awareness is great. His frame is great. His physicality is great. Plays a lot of zone, a lot of press zone. And, you know, he can improve on his play strength. There's a tendency for him to get driven out a little bit. And, you know, that's something you got to grow in. But this is a guy you might be able to get him to play that safety look. He'll work with Fangio, with his mix-match Jones, be able to get in there and jam and that to slow it down so the pressure can get in there. I don't know if he's going to be around by the 51st pick. I do like what he has to offer. I'm just not certain that he's going to be the guy that we're going to get. I think he might be C or B. I like his height, but that brings us back to some of those cornerbacks we drafted during the Parcells era that didn't really pan out. What was his name? I can't remember now, the 6'4" guy. Brents is a decent acquisition. Some concerns, but I love the anticipation. I love his ability to play press coverage. Anticipation is huge when you're playing zone. So it's a nice option, but I don't know. I really think I'm hoping for that TE at that point. And some people, I mean, this guy runs a 4.35. People are saying, is he the next Jalen Ramsey? I don't think he's going to be available at 51. And maybe if Dolphins are so high on him, they might even trade up to get him. He's got some flaws in his game, but the guy's a freak. I'm not going to really get into his coverage too much because I don't think he's going to be available. I think he's going to be gone long before that. Cornerbacks, I think early second rounds where he's going to go 4.35, 6'2", 210. This is a big-time possibility to play. People are going to roll dice on this guy early. Now, you got Demarion Overshawn, and Overshawn is if you notice, there's a lot of these guys that are kind of tall, bigger, that are looking maybe to be the big nickel look, be physical. I think this is a prototype they're looking for. Overshawn, 6'4", 224. You know, he lacks awareness, he lacks physicality, but great change of direction, great frame, great speed. His tackling is terrible. He really looks like a will linebacker. Now, I'm not too crazy on Overshawn. Some people have gotten pegged for the 4th. You know, so he might be like option C with our 3rd. But we got Tyndale. And Tyndale's a guy who, you know, struggled with his instincts, and he needed a year to kind of get it together. He's fast. He's kind of the same size, not as tall, I don't believe. Maybe he is. So I think this seems like doubling down. I just don't want too many guys with poor awareness in our linebacking group. And not to say Tyndale will always have poor awareness, but obviously it's not elite at this stage. And so he's okay. I could see him maybe playing that safety role, big nickel role, special teams guy. But again, Tyndale's that role. So I don't really see this guy as a one for me. Now, again, there could be other people out there that aren't on here, all the draft, all the kids that think getting drafted that Miami's going to have their eyes on. But I think these are the key ones they're looking at. Now, for me, the number one guy in the third round, if we already got the tight end, needs to be Roy. This guy, look at his face. This guy's a beast. 6'4", 315. They say third round. Some people say he could have stayed another year to develop, but I think that even works for us. Great feet, hand usage, great strength, bend and explosiveness a little weak, but his physical stats are all high. He's a monster. You can see here, he played over the tackle, 22, B gap, A gap. I think this guy is going to move in and play that A gap a lot more on the NFL. I don't think he's going to have the ability to play out towards the edge, or at least early. Some concerns about his pass rush, but he's got the tools. It's just to develop those tools. Some days a little bit of a lack of urgency. He kind of hangs on the blocks and doesn't go after. But that's somewhat correctable. But he has the tools. He has the physical ability. And why I like him so much if we got the tight end knocked out is because Raekwon Davis hasn't been the same since that knee injury in 2021. 2020, he was a beast, but 6'6", lacks the movement skills to play the three gap and beyond really effectively. He's a gapper, but that knee keeps buckling, and he's tall, and I don't know if we're going to re-sign him next year. And then there's the big elephant in the room, Zach Sealer. I love Zach Sealer, but are we going to walk away at the end of the season with nothing? And if we do, who's replacing him? It takes these guys some time to develop. So for me, Roy, he comes in. He can play that nose tackle spot. You can give Sealer some breaks by moving Wilkinson out wide. You can give Davis some breaks and maybe a backup if he goes down again. He's getting injured again. To me, Roy makes the most sense. This is a guy who could develop into something more. And I think he really fills our needs this season and beyond. And I think that's really where the beauty for me is in the evaluation. I don't think Davis is coming back unless it's a song and a dance. And I don't know if I want him to come back if that knee keeps going. Sadly, I like the kid a lot. And then Sealer, maybe we can draft this guy. Maybe we could trade Sealer this season, get something for him instead of letting him walk away for nothing. This guy's worth a lot. And as much as I want him signed, it's, I don't want to see another Gesicki thing. I mean, if we traded Gesicki before last season, we probably would have got a decent, I think we were talking about a second-round pick. And so Sealer is either going to be a huge contract and you're going to need somebody behind him, or you're going to move off Sealer either in a trade or let him walk. I'm going to move off Davis, and this guy can come in, help you this year, and then he can actually develop to be maybe a guy who takes more snaps next year because he's got the marination. So for me, Roy is the defensive player in the third that I want most, unless, Kaylee drops the third. But that's not realistic. So at this stage, I think they're looking at LaPorta in the second and Roy in the third, and I don't know what to do with that second. Maybe Brent's in the second and Kraft in the third. We definitely need blocking. I'm concerned about LaPorta's blocking. We need some more than just finesse-style stuff. So this is where we're at with all our... Listen, a lot of these guys might be gone before we pick, and then they got to go deeper into their board where they didn't get interviews, and it might end up being better in the long run. But from what the choices are, this is my beauty. To me, I think that Roy and Kraft are excellent options in that third round. Second round's a little sticky if we don't get LaPorta, but if we get LaPorta, I'm a little concerned about our flimsy blocking ability. Of course, we could be super vertical and be, the greatest show on turf in Miami, and it doesn't matter. But for me, maybe Brent's, if he can drop, although I'm not sure he's going to drop that far. So the second round, to me, the third round is pretty much a safe round for us. I think there's going to be plenty of guys there that we'll have options for. It's that second round that's going to be sticky, guys. So that's what I'm seeing. Judah, come here. I'm going to show you my guy over here. Come on. You've been on my grill all day. Come here. Come. You've been on my grill all day. 2 minutes ago, he leaves. Come on. There's my guy. This is my new son. I want to say hi to everybody out there. And look. Hey, we got look. Say hi, Judah. Say, I'm a Dolphins fan. I love this guy. Anyway, as Gary saying, catch you next time. Be well. Go Fins. Start building your own online sports book today by getting signed up with aceperhead.com service that'll allow you to book action on sports from all around the world.